we're going to talk specifically about AI for reps in this presentation, specifically also 2025. Why is 2025 such a pivotal year from what we see? And what are some reps already doing? What do we think is going to happen in the next 3, 4, 5 years? And why that's important to all of us. Reps, you guys are the glue, right? You guys are the ones that make the whole thing happen. You're on the front lines, making the sale, looking at the data, making sure everyone's taken care of from a customer standpoint. And so really that we feel like, and I'm sure you guys agree, that reps are a key to the industry. And if there's distributors and manufacturers on the call, don't leave. This is for you as well. It's for the ecosystem. But when we started out here at Flow, it was really to service the reps as the kind of the glue that holds everything together here. That's what we're going to get into. This should be for everyone. So if you have played around with AI in the past and you've tried some various things to do some workflows in your company, or maybe you're an advanced user and you've done some pretty cool things with chatbots and being able to pull in like things on your product catalog and stuff like that. Or maybe you've never even touched AI. You've heard about it and you just haven't had time, right? You guys are busy. Whatever the case is, we're going to cover some things here in this webinar that I think are going to be very valuable for you to understand. But before we move on, I just have a quick poll to see where everybody is on the AI spectrum, right? So I like to get a sense from the audience, what tools have you used? So I know, are we more advanced? Are we less advanced? And we can go from there. If you guys can put that poll out there, if you guys have a second to just select the tools that you have used, that'll give me a sense for kind of what we're looking at. Okay, cool. So 97% ChatGPT. That's awesome. I don't know who the one person is, but we're going to help you out here that has not done that. Okay, Claude 11%, Notebook LM 7%, Custom GPTs 15%, Google Agent Space 2%. Okay, that's good. Very familiar with ChatGPT and the rest more or less. That's good. That's good to know. We're going to get into all of that. So my goal here is we will get into some specific tools, but my goal in this presentation isn't necessarily to go hands-on into some free tools or some other tools or whatever tools to show you like how it works, how you do prompts, those kinds of things. I did give a presentation about 3 weeks ago that does a lot of that. If you guys want to link to that after this presentation, you can see that one as well if you want more like hands-on. In this one though, because of the scope is the year of AI for reps, what my goal here is to help you guys see what is happening in the industry and hopefully have a mind shift into how you can approach AI in a way that you can ride the wave and you can find the gains that we're looking for here for you guys for AI, okay? So that's what I'm interested in. I'm interested in helping you understand some of those things. Now, we are going to move up here. So what is this mindset shift? How should we be thinking about AI in our businesses? Because this is key. This is super fundamental. There's a lot of hype going around about AI right now, what it can do, what it can't do. It solves all the world's problems, right? That's not accurate. It's also not accurate to see, a lot of times you'll see use cases and things like that that are interesting, but a lot of the stuff that you see out there doesn't have really the power to fundamentally transform your business. And that's what we're after. When we're talking about AI 2025 for reps, we're talking about a fundamental transformation of your business. And what we call that is foundational AI, right? So again, this isn't a one-off thing. This isn't something you do overnight, but this again is, when we talk about foundational AI, we're talking about a new mode of operating as a rep firm that is an order of magnitude more efficient than what you're doing today, okay? So that's what we're talking about here. Like was said, just again, where did this idea come from? I used to own a company called Data Crunch, about 30 people doing AI, doing data science. We would go into companies, we would find their inefficient processes and across lots of different sectors, and we would regularly find areas where we could condense processes that would take hours and sometimes days down to minutes and seconds, right? So that's what we're talking about, like an order of magnitude increase in efficiency, days to minutes. That's the kind of transformation we're after here. So why for reps though? So when we were working with Data Crunch here in Raleigh, which is where I'm based, NTS, which is a utility rep here in Raleigh, contracted that company to do some work for them. That's how I got introduced into the rep world about 6 years ago. I didn't know what a rep was before then, and now I know a lot of you guys, and I know some of you on this call are doing free trials with us and some of our customers, so thank you for coming. But anyways, what we're talking about now is really the connection of those two worlds, the data world, the AI data science world that I used to live, and the rep world, in order to create these same order of magnitude efficiency shifts that we have seen in other industries, okay? And the cool thing now is AI even accelerates that even further. The combination in 2025 that we're seeing of not only the technology that is now available to us, but also the will to adapt to this technology is meeting a critical point. We have some actually proprietary survey data that I'll show you later on in the presentation that gives you some view around some of those shifting modes of thought that people are having. But that's the epiphany. If we can combine really good, solid AI practices with the rep community and what they are doing, then you can get these shifts that we've seen. And you guys, and I'll just say, as someone who has worked with companies across the gamut, you as reps deal with more data insanity, for lack of a better term, than many of the other organizations that I've worked with, even the big guys, right? You guys have purchase orders and commission statements and quotes coming from 20 different manufacturers and all these different distributors and all these different customers. They're all in different formats, right? And somehow you guys are tasked with organizing all of that, doing your pricing, doing your commission reconciliation, figuring out where your business is it up or is it down? It's an immense amount of data to be able to crunch. It's satisfying, at least for me, from my background, to be able to come in and say, let's apply some of the stuff that we've seen work elsewhere now that we understand the rep workflows, and let's make this efficient for everybody, right? Because you guys don't want to spend your time in spreadsheets, right? Nobody does except for the accountants, okay? Now, we've seen this work too, okay? So I'll just tell you this again, this is not something we think will work in the future. The concept of foundational AI is already working for rep firms. So here's one, again, NTS, I just mentioned, this was one of the first use cases that we did when we applied foundational AI to their systems. Literally saves, and we did the math on this. We said, okay, how many hours did you spend on these processes beforehand? How many are you spending afterwards? What were the hourly rates, right? These are hard numbers, $144,000 saved in just one piece of foundational AI that we applied there, 80% reduction in costs. Think about that as in terms of 228 hours. These are man hours saved every single month that you're not paying for anymore to do admin work, and now can be used to actually go and sell something, all right? So again, this is real stuff. This is happening for reps right now. They're applying this stuff. Okay, so I really believe foundational AI is going to be the single biggest operational shift in rep firm history, right? It's not just a tool. You should not think about AI as a simple tool. I'm going to use ChatGPT to process a document and I'll get an answer. I'll use Notebook LM to generate some images or whatever it is. I don't know why there is fireworks right now on the screen, but that's all good. You really want to think about this as, again, an infrastructure play, a complete overhaul to your operations and bringing it all together, because that's where you're going to see this fundamental efficiency gain. Now, if you're using it for those one-off cases, that's not bad, that's good. And it will save you time doing specific things. But if you want the order of magnitude change that we're after, you have to think a little bit deeper than that. Okay, so why does this work? Why does foundational AI work? Okay, so number one, it's trained on all of your data. Okay, your own data, all your pricing sheets, all your CRM information, all your commissions, all your inventory data, all of that goes into a foundational AI system so the AI can see everything in the business, right? And it can act on that accordingly. So that's one thing why it works so well. Number two is it's connected to your ecosystem, right? A foundational AI system is one that is connected, and you guys as reps have one of the most connected business models, or should be connected business models, of almost anyone that I've seen, right? You have, again, 20 manufacturing lines plus that you guys represent, and then all your distributors. You're trying to track data across what's going on with the manufacturer, where's the order at, where's it going, what are the prices, all these kinds of things. A connected ecosystem, a foundational AI that has those connections, is immensely more powerful than one that does not have those connections. Okay, and then number 3, it powers your every workflow. And we'll get into this in a second, but thinking through all of the workflows, all of the things that your team does on a day-to-day basis, and how can AI eliminate the busy work on every single one of your workflows, right? It can't do everything, but it's really good at reducing your workload, as we've seen 80% reduction sometimes. And that's real dollars. Okay, so that's why foundational AI is where we want to be, not just single one-off use cases. All right. So again, not to beat a dead horse, but doesn't sit on top of your current systems. Foundational AI becomes your system. It learns from your business. It adapts to your workflows, powers every decision that you make with the context that it has. It's not a bolt-on. It's not a one-off. It's not a feature that's like duct taped onto a system or something. It is the foundation of what we're doing here, if you're going to do it right. All right. Let's talk about the 3 key insights to have a foundational AI system, right? These are the 3 really important things to keep in mind as you're thinking about this for your business. Number 1, shifting AI from a one-off to a foundational shift in efficiency for the rep firm. So again, taking that mindset from I can use AI to do this, or I can use AI to do that in ChatGPT or in this system or in that system, and saying we want it as a foundational element of our company. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, connecting AI to your ecosystem, right? We just talked about that, but again, a foundational AI system that is connected to the ecosystem is 100 times more powerful than one that is not. And then 3rd, and this is counterintuitive to most people that I talk to, especially manufacturers, using AI and using some of these strategies is actually more secure and has better data privacy outcomes than the current mode of operating. Okay, so a lot of people are afraid about AI. They're saying if we do AI, our data is going to get lost, it's going to get sucked in somewhere, it's going to get out there, right? You do have to be careful, and we'll talk about this again later in the presentation, but AI done right is more secure and less risky than if you're not doing that. Okay, and we'll get into some of those details. Okay, so let's talk about number 1. So shifting AI from just a one-off thing that you're doing in ChatGPT or whatever to having efficiency across your firm. Okay, so here's the thing to keep in mind to know if you're doing this right. All right, if it's not delivering measurable compounding gains, then it's not transformational. It's just ornamental, right? Again, you can use AI for specific use cases and find some gains, but that's not what we're after. We're after a total transformation of what we're doing. And actually, before I hit that, let me share with you guys, and actually we just ran a survey, had just about 100 respondents respond to the survey about AI usage for reps, distributors, and manufacturers. Okay, and this, if you'll do me a favor, this survey has not actually been released to the public yet. On Monday, it's going to come out. So please don't share this with anyone quite yet. You guys get a preview because you're on this webinar. But let me show you some of these results and how this relates to what we're talking about. All right, so this is actual data from people over the last 2 or 3 months that have responded to this. Okay, these are your peers. So how often do you use AI tools for business purposes? All right, so daily, weekly, occasionally, rarely, and never. So 44% of firms actually use it at least weekly. That's pretty good. That's actually higher than I would have expected. And so there does seem to be a move towards adopting AI, which again is what we want, right? The more people adopting it, the better it can help everybody. The more people are aware of it, all these kinds of things. And so that's a good use case. Now we did split that between rep, manufacturer, and distributor, right? So this is where things get a little bit interesting, okay? So the rep firms, daily usage, 13%. Manufacturer and distributor, daily usage, 40%, right? So the rep firms are, again, statistically speaking here, based on the survey, are less than half of the daily usage of the distributors and the manufacturers. So they're lagging behind that usage. So we have some work to do, essentially, as rep firms to move the needle a little bit and catch up. And that's really what we want to do. As reps, we want to be in a position of strength when it comes to our technology, right? So that we can come to the manufacturers and we can show them that we're doing things efficiently and we're on par, hopefully even better than they are at the technology that we're using, and you can keep those lines and you can keep your manufacturers and distributors happy. So a little bit of work to do there for the rep firm. Okay, and then we say, which use cases do you use AI for? All right, and this again gets to my point of, hey, are we using AI for 1 or 2 things, or are we really taking this seriously and fundamentally changing our organization. So this is what we see, right? And this is something I would expect. Okay, the top use cases: content development, marketing, competitor research, digital marketing. Okay, those are the top three. Those are all marketing research related types of use cases, which are probably the easiest use cases to access when using AI systems. Again, you could go to ChatGPT or you could go to Claude and you could have it. This was actually just as of 2 weeks ago, really. The image generation that ChatGPT can do now is so good that it can create ads and it can create all this kind of stuff that you used to hire an agency to do. So it's pretty crazy what's going on in marketing land with that. And that's just going to keep getting better, right? So that's good that lots of people are picking up on those use cases. It's the most common one. Okay, but then you get into some more like operational type use cases: your CRM, your customer service, your analytics and reporting, your quote generation, right? Commission reconciliation, all these kind of more operational activities are much less. I would argue for the rep firm, the marketing stuff is actually really useful for rep firms, and that's a whole other webinar almost to get into all those. But the operational use cases, I would argue, is more important for the reps and for the ecosystem at large, because that's where you get these order of magnitude gains in your efficiency. And those happen to be the ones that are less used and less known about currently. So again, some room to grow there. Okay, that was for the reps, right? Manufacturers, distributors, it's about the same. They're using it for marketing, and there's not a lot of difference there between the rep and the manufacturer. All right, this one was interesting. How effective has AI been in improving the following outcomes? So these are people that have actually implemented some AI, and we asked how effective was it, right? So these are the rep firms. So increasing efficiency, pretty good, right? Extremely effective, maybe 18%. Effective, you're looking at 60, 70%. So for rep firms that are using AI, agree generally that it is good at increasing efficiency. That's really good to see. Better decision making, a little bit less on the strong feelings there, but again, they say it's helping out, right? Gaining a competitive advantage, a little bit less. Higher customer satisfaction, a little bit less. And then these two are super interesting to me. I think this gets to the point that I'm trying to make here. Increasing revenue and reducing costs are the lowest scoring ones of anything, right? So on the one hand, we say it's increasing efficiency, it's awesome, but technically increasing efficiency should reduce your costs and probably increase your revenue, but we're not seeing that happen. And while, again, and I think this is systemic of applying a couple of isolated AI use cases or isolated AI features in whatever software you're using, and hey, that was faster than if I did it manually, right? And whatever. But it seems to be now a very loose connection between that gain in efficiency, or that little use case gain in efficiency, and actually translating to, hey, I'm saving a lot of money and my revenue is going up, which ultimately is what we want to get to, right? Again, when you hit the foundational, when you're doing foundational AI right, now, like I showed you in that case study, you will see those reduced costs and you'll see that increase in revenue. And those will be real hard dollars that you can actually measure. Okay. Distributors, they're doing a little bit better in terms of the results that they see, right? As we've already seen, they're using AI more, they're seeing more results from it. And again, I would say that's a good trend to see, that this group of manufacturers, distributors that's using AI maybe in a more sophisticated way so far is seeing better results from it. So again, there's a curve here. The more you use AI and the more you get to that foundational AI level, the more you're going to see that transformation in your efficiency and your costs. All right. Just a few more. We'll get back to the presentation here. Let's see. How we doing on time? Okay. Okay. All right. So which of the following are barriers to using AI? So integration into existing systems. This gets to insight number 2 that we're going to talk about. Not sure where to start. Lack of technical expertise, high implementation costs, resistance to change, data security, right? So integration tops the list, right? Here, and not sure what we should do, that kind of a thing. So those are interesting. That's probably a topic for another webinar as well, but those results are in. It is interesting that you flip what the rep firm says is their challenge. The one thing that the manufacturers and distributors say that the reps don't say as much is data security, right? This gets to point number 3 that I mentioned, and that is AI is viewed as a security risk and a privacy risk. And it can be in certain situations, but done right, I would argue that it actually improves your data security and your privacy. So a little bit of a misconception I think we can work on there. The reps don't seem to have as much of an issue with that. Okay, and then we get to expectations, right? So, hey, like, what are you actually doing with AI? What are their actual results? What do you expect the results to be? Here's question number 5, right? Everybody is expecting improved efficiency, nearly, and a transformation of business processes. So this is what people are expecting, right? But again, we're not seeing that as much. Only 11% think that there will be a minimal impact of AI, right? So 90%, 9 out of 10 rep firms think this thing is going to get pretty crazy, and I would agree with them. Okay, same thing with manufacturers here. Same order, same numbers, more or less. And then we have some other stuff here in the survey that we can send you guys the link on Monday if you want to read this more in depth. But for our present discussion, I hope that helps highlight for you this idea that, again, we're seeing reps we need more reps to use more AI, first of all, because we're lagging behind. The reps that are using AI seemingly are seeing efficiency gains in kind of one-off cases, but they're not seeing the fundamental change they want, which is I reduced my costs and I'm getting more revenue, right? And I think the foundational AI is when that comes up. So what is one of the elements of foundational AI? As you're thinking about this in your firms, how do I get to foundational AI? How do I implement this? One place that you want to go is your workflows. Again, so like identifying every single workflow you have and saying, how can AI apply to this to reduce the time that it takes me to do this? And you could think about this as a grid, right? If you're familiar with Gartner's Magic Quadrant, this is very similar to that, okay? So on the x-axis here, you have the time burden of the task, like how much time does this task take me to do? And then on the y-axis, you have how good is AI at automating this particular task, right? And again, these are rough estimates. Every rep firm, these points may shift around depending on how you operate or things like that. But generally speaking, what we want to do is automate everything in the upper right quadrant. We call it the AI goldmine zone, right? Those are the things that take up a lot of time, and AI is really good at automating. So right there up at the top corner, data entry, right? When I showed you those results, $144,000 worth of savings, that AI was solely aimed at data entry, automating your data entry, right? That's all that did. Those numbers alone, that's all. Let alone all this other stuff that you could add into the mix. And you can see like that compounds, and you can see the savings could be pretty insane. All right, so you're thinking about your data entry, right? Your commissions, right? Loading your commission statements, doing commission reconciliation, searching through all of your product catalogs and finding specs and finding insights and doing product crosses, right? Your product knowledge, if you hire a new rep, or if your reps are trying to you get a new line and you're like, how does this product work? How do I sell this? AI is good at helping you understand those things. Training, we've had people actually use AI to generate podcasts, the AI generated podcasts of their product catalogs that their reps can listen to in the car as they're driving around. That's a cool use case. Again, that's not necessarily to the level of a foundational AI, but that's a cool use case, right? Because then your reps can, the tool there, by the way, is Notebook LM. If you want to do that, you can load up your product catalogs and generate a podcast of that catalog, and then you can listen to it. It's pretty crazy how good it is. It sounds like it's two humans talking back and forth. So if you haven't done that, you should give that a try. It's pretty cool. But again, the idea here is you want to identify all of those items, right? And this is where you want to start. The ones that are the highest time burden and the best, easiest for AI to automate, get those first and then start working your way down. Obviously, there's stuff that you're not going to automate with AI, right? Going to trade shows, building relationships, those are super core to your business. AI is not going to touch you talking to a person, right? You have to do that. And you should be spending more time doing that, right? Instead of doing all these other things. So that's how we understand the workflows and what we want to wrap into a foundational AI system so that it's as effective as it can possibly be. It's a kind of a framework where you can use to think about that. All right, don't get intimidated by this slide. I'm not going to get into technical details, but I think this is super important to understand the differences between different kinds of AI systems and why they're different and why their effectiveness is different. Okay, so In the upper left-hand corner here, this is number one. You have a very simple flow, and the text here is small, so I'll talk through this, okay? This is a very simple LLM processing flow. This is ChatGPT, right? 97% of y'all use ChatGPT. This was the basis of ChatGPT, right? You give it a prompt, it goes to the LLM gives you an output in text, right? It answers your question, it creates a story, it does whatever, right? That's AI at its simplest use case. Okay, now ChatGPT does more stuff now. The next one is document processing, right? Which again, you can do in ChatGPT. You can upload a document. Now, instead of you typing something, it's gonna take a document, send it to the LLM and give you some output. Okay, so you could try this. You go to ChatGPT. I wouldn't recommend it because ChatGPT, again, isn't walled off and as secure as you would want it to be. But you could upload your documents to ChatGPT, upload a product catalog, not like a purchase order, right? And you could ask it a question of those and it will give you an answer, right? And there are certain tools that are actually good about that. If you're interested in doing those kinds of things, Chat PDF is a good one that we've seen, that you can upload your PDFs and get answers from them. A Notebook LM is another good one. Again, for those like isolated use cases, if you wanted to try it out, those are good places to start. Okay, LLM with RAGs and tool use. So tool use, essentially this is, you give it some sort of prompt, the LLM, instead of just generating a response, it actually goes and gets various capabilities and does something with it. So an example of this could be, hey, I want to look through my data and I want to generate a chart showing me the trends of a certain product that I've sold for certain manufacturers over the past 3 years, right? Instead of you going and configuring a dashboard and doing all that kind of stuff, you could ask an LLM that's equipped with a charting tool and it would understand what you want. It'll go activate that charting tool. It will build the chart and that's what it will present to you in return. All right, so now instead of getting a text response, we're getting a chart. Okay, and you can think of other tool uses that would come through and give you different outputs that are interesting. Okay, multimodal LLM flow. So this is, now you have your tool set. Now you can input multiple things, right? We've seen documents, but you can give it images, you can give it videos, and AI can understand those things and do things with them. So again, if we're talking about marketing, you could give it an image of a product or something, and you could say, hey, generate me an ad to put on LinkedIn based on this product and based on its specs in this catalog. It'll take the image of the product, it'll go to one of its tools, the image generation tool, right? It'll generate that image, and then it'll return that to you, that kind of a thing. And then it puts those things in memory as well. So it remembers, okay, if you said, hey, I like this style or I like that style, it can remember that for the next time that you ask it. Okay, advanced AI agents. So you may, again, I don't know how, it sounds like we're not super deep into AI here, but one of the things that a lot of people are talking about right now are AI agents. Okay, this is the idea that an AI can do things for you, make some decisions based on what it's doing, and then continue to act, right? So this deep research with ChatGPT is a good example of this. So you could, if you go to ChatGPT, there's a deep research button now you can click. You say, hey, I want to do deep research on this topic, and you can ask it a question. And again, you guys could use this. You may want to try this out. You could go and ask it, hey, I'm looking for new projects in my territory. Here are the states where my territory is. Do some deep research and tell me if there are any like upcoming projects that I should be aware of. And so that agent will go out and it'll search the web and it'll find some information. And then based on that information, it will then say, hey, now that I know this is happening, maybe I should search this. So it chains together sort of some decisions and some logic to go through and do this whole research report for you and give you several pages of information with all of the references of where it found that information. So that's pretty cool. So that's like an agentic AI, okay? So we're getting closer to what we want, but we're not quite there yet. But number 6 there with all those boxes and all that crazy stuff, that's where we want to get to, okay? This is the architecture of AI agents that integrates with everything else. And again, you can think about that. I won't go into the nitty gritty for time purposes here, but think about it as an orchestration of AI agents for your exact business processes, right? So whether you're trying to automate entering a purchase order or doing commission reconciliation or doing a marketing campaign or finding out what's in your CRM or trying to log something to your CRM, or doing pricing on quotes, right? And looking those prices up and making sure that's right, or doing submittals and highlighting things on PDFs. There's so many things where if you have AI agents that are trained to do those specific tasks, and it's in an architecture where they can communicate with each other, all the user has to do is say, I'm doing a submittal. Here's the products that I want. Here's what I want done. The AI understands what that is. It'll go out and do all of that work. And if it's not sure about something, it's smart enough to then ask the user in return, hey, I know you're trying to do this, but have you considered this? Or hey, the price, I don't have a pricing file that I need to give you the right answer. Can you go find that pricing file and upload it, or whatever it might be, right? So when we're talking about foundational AI, this is really what we're talking about. Getting to the system where you have AI agents that from a simple command from a user can go and do all of those mundane things that your people have to currently do, and it does it for you, right? Just imagine if you had a system like this, then again, all of those things that take your time and take all that cost and all those hours goes away, right? And that's what we're after here. And I will say this is not easy to build. Our team actually just spent the last 8 months building this, what you see there, the foundations of being able to do all of those things. Now we're still building stuff on top of that, like this agent to do this and that agent to do this and this agent to do that, and the communication layer and things like that. And we're talking actually with several of you on the call to tune those agents to do those exact things and do them in an appropriate way, right? Because we don't want to give the impression, again, when we're talking about foundational AI, an AI like OpenAI is general, right? It's good at a lot of things, but when it's really specific, like your workflows, your rep workflows, it breaks down because there's so many edge cases and there's so many specific pieces of information that it needs to know and needs to get right. So designing those agents in a way that it can handle those workloads is really where the trick comes in, and then putting those AIs into a system and an architecture that can then orchestrate all of that for you. That is foundational AI. That's what we're after, okay? Because then you have an order of magnitude increase of what you're doing. What does that allow you to do, right? If you have something like that, AI to scale across your company, right? All those workflows, multiple agents to work together in complex workflows, and you have a high trust, visibility, and adaptable system, right? So again, this is where the user is interacting. It's getting visibility into what the AI is doing. It can guide the AI as needed. This is never going to be a totally hands-off process. It shouldn't be a total hands-off process because, again, as the human needs to be in there making sure that it's doing what you want it to do, but it is highly adaptable and highly visible, okay? So, I mean,
before we move on, we do have 2 questions.
Yes.
Would you like to answer them now?
Yeah, let's hit it.
All right, perfect. The first one is, how do you create an AI agent? Is there a software to use? Can you start building one using ChatGPT or something else?
There are platforms that have come out that allow you to build and design AI agents. A lot of them are ChatGPT, like they're generic, right? But you go in and you can build your agent to do certain things. It's early days for that. They're pretty good. The programs, I can send you some links, whoever's interested in that afterwards. I don't have any pulled up here, but there's more coming out too. So I would say I don't even know if I could recommend the platform to do that in general, because again, this is so new. There's a lot happening. But yes, there are platforms that allow you to do some drag and drop and create some agents, even to some extent orchestrate some agents. Once you start to get into orchestrating agents and connecting those to outside services like MCPs, stuff like that, it starts to get, you need some developers for that still. But I can send some information to whoever asked that question.
Okay, perfect. And then one more question before we move on. The question is, have you seen successful implementations of AI to process order entries, given that POs all come in different formats, sometimes have price discrepancies due to outdated pricing, and et cetera?
Yeah, so the one we built, Flow, does that. That's one of the first use cases we built it for. There may be others, but I'm the one I'm most familiar with, obviously. We've seen over almost 4 million PDFs at this point, lots of them purchase orders from all different kinds of manufacturers. You know, and they're crazy, right? Some have like several pages, and sometimes stuff is embedded where it shouldn't be and things like that. So what we've seen, at least, is our AI is 80 to 90% of the time it can pull out the right information, no problem. Then there's edge cases where, again, we use kind of an agentic approach to then be able to say, hey, for those specific cases, we're going to design a subroutine that can handle those kinds of PDFs in an appropriate way to pull out the information that we want, right? And we still see new things, right? But as we see those new things, we start to build the agents that can handle those things. And pretty soon you have an orchestrated system that can pretty well handle whatever PDF that it sees, right? So that's a work in progress. You'll never be done because the PDF could change at any time, but we've at least been able to get to like baseline 80%. And then the other cases, as they come up, we design sub agents that do that. And so then if you're a rep firm, for example, and you turn it on, 80% of your PDFs go in without a problem. The other 20%, we create subroutines for it. Then you're at 100% in terms of what you need to deal with. So that's how we approach that. But yes, AI is very good at doing that. And again, even 2 years ago, AI was not good at doing that. So and it's getting better every day. So it is possible. Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so the point there, right? So you're moving from like one smart assistant to a fully AI-powered organization, right? Structured, flexible, and it learns in real time what's going on. And that's really where we want to be. So that's number one. I got to move a little bit faster. So number two, connecting AI to the entire ecosystem for a foundational shift in cooperative efficiency, right? So again, for me, reps are in just such a unique position because you guys not only deal with a ton of data complexity in your firm, but you also deal with an ecosystem that has a ton of data complexity, right? Like where's my stuff problem, right? Between the manufacturer and the distributor and the contractor and the rep, information's all over the place, right? And so the more we can increase the cooperative efficiency of the ecosystem as a whole, all boats rise, right? So we are after a fundamental shift in the efficiency, not only of your rep firm, but of the ecosystem in which you operate, right? And so then again, you guys don't have to worry about all these really mundane details, and you can serve your customers better, and that's better for everybody. So to have again, we're talking about this foundational AI. If we want true foundational AI, we're looking at connecting the ecosystem to be able to do that. So an idea of what this might look like, and we've actually had conversations with several manufacturers, some big ones as well, coming online here soon, we think. But it's essentially like you think about all those pricing files that you have in your product catalogs and the PIMs and the marketing materials and the promotions, the commissions, the CRMs, the quotes, the orders, the order acknowledgements, right? All this data is going back and forth, oftentimes in email, which is crazy to me. And then you guys got to figure it all out. Everyone in the ecosystem has to figure it out. So one of the cool things about AI is it's opening up new doors to make integrations much easier than they used to be. So again, that's another technological advancement that 2 or 3 years ago we didn't have. Now we do, right? This is why we're saying 2025 is the year where you're going to start seeing this stuff shift, because the technology's here, like I showed on the survey, people are ready for it. And in fact, again, from that survey, manufacturers, more of them are ready for it than even the reps, right? So you may start to see some of these shifts happen, and it'd be good to be ready for it, right? So when this integration, this stuff starts to take place and all this information is passing hands in a more automated way, you want to be right there in the middle of it, right? Because think about it from a rep firm perspective. If you have all the pricing files just coming into your system and the product catalogs and the PIMs and the marketing materials, what you can do with that with an AI system is pretty awesome, right? So like automatic pricing on quotes, automatic campaign generation that you can do. You can generate marketing materials, marketing posts that go out on LinkedIn on a scheduled basis, all based on the marketing materials and the catalogs. And in fact, your reps' writing styles, we have a system called Flow Demand that does this, right? That organizes all that and pushes a campaign out for you so you can stay top of mind, right? Because your reps don't have time to sit there and type up a post on LinkedIn every day or every other day. But if you did something like this where it's integrated, they can see the posts, they can approve them, they can edit them, they push them out, and it's all good. And then there's coordination, right, between the manufacturer, maybe they have a new product or maybe they're pushing a promotion. Instead of this back and forth between them and the rep, it's an instantaneous push, and then the campaign's launched to be done in a day, right? So these integrations, again, is going to take the entire ecosystem from where it is now to a place where it's much, much more efficient to get these workflows done. And so here's some thought, right? So the operational system that you live in, right? All the data comes in there and you can handle all of that, right? You can have a chat system that helps you understand like what are the specs or what's the product crosses, all this kind of stuff. The demand generation of what we just talked about. Data security, we'll talk about this more in the next one, but again, data security is actually better if you have a system like this than passing stuff in emails, right? And less portal maintenance for the manufacturers, right? As a rep, I know you guys are putting in data into 20 different manufacturer portals, right? But on the manufacturer side, they have to maintain all those portals, right? And that's costly, right? So again, if the integration can just be for the entire ecosystem, again, everybody wins, right? Where's my stuff? Essentially goes away. We just talked about, this is an example of the marketing, right? So again, just to give you a view of what an integration point could be, right? So you can see here, like maybe the manufacturer pushes in 2 products that they want to promote, Acuity Auto Connect, Ubiquity DRM, right? That goes in, sucked in by the AI. The AI pushes that out to your reps. We got some awesome reps here, okay, John Wooden, Greg Popovich, Dean Smith. Those reps have various personas about how they want the content written in their voice. And so from the Auto Connect catalog, it gets written in John Wooden's voice and Greg Popovich's voice and so forth. That then also goes through various frameworks, like proven frameworks that work well on LinkedIn. Hey, here, I want a hook, and then I want a story, or I want a listicle, or I want all these kinds of things. So all these kind of proven marketing ways of formatting something can be put in. Again, this is an AI agent doing this. It has all this information, and it can generate all of those posts in all of those formats, in all of those voices, based on the actual data in the catalog and whatever promotions the manufacturer has. And boom, you just made a 3-month campaign in a day, right? So again, that would take a long time otherwise. So that's the kind of efficiency that we're going to see as everything starts to get more integrated.
Curtis, we have one more question before we move on, if that's all right with you.
Yep.
All right, this one it's a little bit of a longer one, so bear with me. It's, have you found an effective way to handle quote generation when you're working from drawing packages or PDFs? Rep firms often need to cross-reference the listed items with their own products, and sometimes the drawn packages are hard to understand. Can AI or an AI agent handle this?
Yes, it can. Actually, this is a perfect question for what we're about to talk about. So let me get into this. How to improve data security and lower error risk while using AI. So inherent in the question you just asked is, that's a complex system. Is AI can it do it, and can it do it accurately? So it's not giving me bad information, because you definitely don't want AI giving you bad information. So let's actually skip this slide and go to this slide. So what you're asking about is inherent in that question is the concept of a human in the loop system. Okay, so here's an example of that, and then I'll get into your question specifically. So here we have a PDF order, right, that comes in, and in this instance, what this AI agent is doing is it's saying, hey, here's the PDF order. I'm going to extract the name of the company. I'm going to extract the customer, the ship to, the product IDs, the prices, and I'm going to digitize all of that. So no one has to sit there and type this in manually, and they have all the information that they need, right? Now, as like names can be tricky, and one distributor might call one company something, another distributor calls that same company something else. They're slightly different. Or someone gets acquired and the name changes, right? There's so many things that can happen to make this complicated. And a good AI system has a human in the loop component that if it's not confident that it is going to make the right match or get the right information, it will prompt the user for instruction. So here's what this does, right? So here it says, hey, I wasn't able to find the factory. I'm not sure what the factory is. And a good AI won't stop there. It'll then say, here's some suggestions. Here's some things that it could be, but I wasn't sure enough to make that assertion, right? So the user would then look at this screen. They would say, oh, look, it was actually Perform Line Products, click that, and then you're off to the races. And then the AI now knows that if it sees a PDF like that's the right answer, and it can do that moving forward, right? And AI, again, is not going to do everything for you. It's going to do a lot for you. And then where it needs your help, a good AI system will have a streamlined interface to get the input from the human to then proceed. So when we're talking about, and I think this is your question, correct me if I'm wrong, when we're talking about product crosses, right, from a major project document, something like this, that would probably be a combination of several agents. One would go in and it would read the entire document, right, and try to find where those products are. Boom, boom. Okay, and it might present to the user and say, and we're actually working on this right now. We have the engine to do this, and we've done it in isolated cases. To do it for an entire like document is something that we have in development, but it's not in production yet. But we're confident that it works, and we just need to tweak it before we put it in prod. So whoever asked that question, if you want to try that, as soon as that feature is released, I can let you know. But then another agent comes in and says, hey, here's all of the product IDs that we found. Here's where they were in the document. And here's the AI's best guess at what the cross is that the user might want to look at. And then it gives you like a reference to documentation that would say, or you click on it and it takes you to the documentation of that particular product, so you as the user can actually see that, right? And then it might be something like this, where it's like, yep, that's the right one, click. That's the right one, click. Or maybe that's not the right one, it should have been this one, whatever. And once you do that a couple of times, the AI learns what your preferences are and what the right connections are. And then when you upload a big document, it can then do that without your input, right? So that's how something like that would work in a way to get it right. Again, we're talking about a highly complicated, highly complex problem. You use a couple of AI agents to attack that, and then you bring in the user for the guidance that any of those agents needs during the process. And then you get it done. So that's how something like that would work. Okay, the other thing I really want to touch on here is, and if that didn't answer your question, ask me another question or just send me an email or something, I can field that. Security, right? So when people think about AI, oftentimes, again, ChatGPT is the first thing that comes to mind. They think of this giant model, right, that is getting all this input from all these people and could be leaking information to whoever, right? Now, OpenAI says that they don't do that, and that's fine, but the risk is always there, and there's been cases where that may or may not have happened. So it's nebulous, right? Again, when you're designing a foundational AI system, what you want to do is make sure that the AI models that you're using are walled off, right? There's a firewall between the servers where that AI is operating and the outside world. And so if you do need to go to the outside world and bring in information, that's done in a controlled process, but it doesn't necessarily allow your models to put anything outside of the wall, right? So that kind of a thing. And so as long as your system is designed with, and this is nothing new, right? This is just good development practices, right? Where you have walled off tenants, walled off databases, walled off servers that are running. Your AI runs on a server, just anything else. And as long as there's security and that's walled off, that's not going to get out into the open internet and do anything, right? So you just have to make sure that your architecture is sound with good security practices, right? So one thing we do at Flow is we're pursuing SOC 2 compliance, and these are things you can look for, right, in vendors or whatever. So SOC 2 compliance is a big one. That's the government standard for having a system that is built in a secure way, right? So you can ask your vendor, are you SOC 2 compliant? That's one thing you could ask. Another thing you could do is look at their terms of service, right? So you look at OpenAI's terms of service or Google's terms of service, that may make you not want to use their stuff, right? Maybe you don't care, whatever, but read the terms of service. All right, one thing we do again in our terms, we explicitly call out that any of our customers, they own their own data. We do not own the data. We don't do anything with the data. So they have their own, you own the data. The AI models that work on your data are walled off from anywhere else. And so it's a secure environment. And then again, as we are talking about integrating with manufacturers and distributors, again, the misconception there is if you're using AI somehow in that process, it's inherently insecure. I would argue the current process is very insecure. You think about all the pricing files and the commission statements and the purchase orders that are flying around via email to everybody's inboxes, and maybe they forward it and they weren't supposed to, or someone hacks your email, who knows? That's a very insecure way of having documents like fly around, right? As opposed to an API connection with appropriate security protocols where stuff is walled off in servers, and that happens and it's streamlined and there's no human error and the data doesn't get out, right? So again, that's a misconception that I think is frankly holding back the industry from some gains that it could make because it's perceived as insecure. Whereas really, if it's done accurately and appropriately, it's very secure. All right, so those are the three, guys. I know we're just about time here. These are important though, right? Because again, from the start of our conversation, foundational AI is absolutely going to change. The rep firms that jump on board with this and they're thinking about how to apply foundational AI models, and we've seen rep firms already doing this. We're talking about an order of magnitude shift in efficiency, right? We're talking a train versus a horse, right? The guy on the train is going to get there first with more goods than the guy on the horse. It just, there's no way around it. And so over the next 3, 4, 5 years, this is going to happen. It's already happening now. So please pay attention to this kind of stuff. So again, so what you want to remember to get a foundational AI system that totally transforms your operations is make sure you're not just doing one-off things. Make sure it is a cohesive solution that works across your organization. Number 2, try for those connections with your manufacturers and with your distributors, because that's going to take it even to the next level. And then just make sure like terms of service, data security practices, SOC 2 compliance, those things are taken care of, because if they are, what you're doing is actually more secure than passing it over email, which is what most people do right now. Okay. This is a slide. Again, you asked me some DIY stuff. If you guys want some DIY suggestions with some of these use cases, right? I just put some up here. Notebook LM is a good instant knowledge assistant. Custom GPTs is good on instant content creation. HubSpot and Notion have pretty decent AI in their CRMs that you could use and think about. Zero-touch data entry. You could use some custom GPTs for that in a limited sense. Instant integrations, Claude has what they call an MCP, which is a layer where AIs can actually talk to each other, which could be interesting for you guys. Flow, we put all, this is our whole thing, right? Our whole thing is putting all of this into one system for reps and staying on top of all the new advancements so that you guys essentially have a super easy way of getting all of these workflows and having this transformation without needing the technical expertise or trying to build something together, right? So if you guys want to have that discussion, we do have a little bit of a backlog right now. There's actually a wait list because there's so much demand, but in the order that requests come in, we can get you up on a demo and a free trial, see if it works for you. But that's what we do. This whole thing, we are gunning for this transformation that we see happening because we really think it's gonna be big for the reps that pick up on it. The last thing I'll leave this with you guys is, again, your competitors aren't gonna beat you because they have smarter people. They will because their system works better, right? An AI system works harder than any employee can, works 24/7. Again, you're talking about a horse versus a train, right? The train takes a little bit longer to build, right? A little bit more technologically advanced, but once you have that train, horse can't compete. That's all I got for you guys. I really appreciate the time. If you have any questions about Flow or even just about the space in general, AI in general, you want to do some DIY stuff, shoot me an email. I'm at cs@flowrms.com, and I'm happy to talk and just talk about this stuff with you guys. So I appreciate the time.